Caribbean, a land of intertwined peoples, a land of crystal clear seas, a land of rhythm and spices. More than 700 islands emerged between North and South America. Some were born from the fire of volcanoes, others from the tireless work of corals. But all of them have been shaped by a sea that knows no boundaries. Welcome to the Caribbean. From Cuba, just 150 kilometers from Florida, to Trinidad, which was once connected to Venezuela. These lands tell stories of two continents meeting and form an arc that separates the Atlantic Ocean from the Caribbean Sea. These islands were formed by the movement of tectonic plates. Some emerged as volcanoes from the ocean floor, while others formed when ocean corals transformed into limestone. The first to navigate these waters were the Taino and Arawak peoples, who moved between the islands in canoes carved from tree trunks. But in 1492, Columbus's arrival forever changed these places, with Europeans bringing sugarcane and slaves from Africa. Today, this history can be read in people's faces, heard in the music, and tasted in the food. The sea, however, has continued to shape these lands, perhaps creating coral reefs that protect hidden lagoons, or carving caves that descend into the depths, or even sculpting beaches rich with sea turtles. Each island still maintains a unique identity. In Cuba, for instance, they speak Spanish, while in Martinique French, or in Aruba Dutch. Yet they all share the rhythm of the Caribbean. The sun setting over the sea, the palms bent by the wind that brings rain, the aroma of spices mixing with the salty air. This archipelago still hides countless secrets, including unexplored underwater caves, Spanish galleon wrecks, and forests where creatures exist that can be found nowhere else on the planet. The Caribbean isn't just a point on the map. It's a place where nature and history intertwine, and every wave that breaks upon the shores tells a different story. And it's from these stories that our journey through the most extraordinary islands of the Caribbean begins. The Virgin Islands. Between the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean lies an archipelago divided between the United States and the United Kingdom. The U.S. Virgin Islands include, among others, the main islands of Saint Croix, St. John, and St. Thomas. While the British Virgin Islands have among their major islands Tortola, Virgin Gorda, Anegada, and Jost van Dyke. All these islands, however, were shaped in the same way by volcanic eruptions and tectonic forces, which created submerged mountains and protected bays. The territory is primarily divided into mountainous islands and small islets, which have given rise to a laboratory of biodiversity. Mangrove forests protect the coasts from erosion and host natural nurseries for tropical fish. The main urban centers, meanwhile, such as Charlotte-Amalie in St. Thomas and Roatán in Tortola, are lively tourist ports that blend colonial architecture and modern Caribbean life. In 1493, Christopher Columbus sailed these waters during his second voyage, and the islands became a strategic point for controlling trade routes. Only in 1917 did the United States purchase part of the archipelago from Denmark for $25 million in gold, creating a territorial division that persists to this day. Cuba. The largest island in the Caribbean is certainly a land rich in contrasts. Havana's streets are filled with colonial buildings, where wrought iron balconies overlook streets that vibrate with the rhythm of music. Time flows differently here, marked by the passage of 1950s cars along the Malecón. To the west, however, in the Vinales Valley, the terrain transforms into mogotes, which are limestone formations that rise from the red earth of tobacco plantations. The farmers here still work the fields with oxen, gathering the leaves that will become the famous Cuban cigars. To the east, meanwhile, the Varadero Peninsula stretches into the ocean with 20 kilometers of pristine white beaches, where luxury resorts overlook crystal-clear turquoise waters.
Sound from the peak of the past, sound to musical blast, sound like a musical explosion. Taking you to the magical ride, 'cause you're feeling you cannot hide. Only peace and love abide.
Jamaica. The land of reggae offers much more than beaches and resorts. The Blue Mountains rise in the heart of the island, creating a microclimate that allows coffee to grow at 2,000 meters altitude, thanks to the morning mist that envelops these mountains. The rivers have carved through the limestone terrain over time, creating a system of caves and underground waterways. The Rio Grande, meanwhile, winds through the jungle, carrying bamboo rafts guided by the descendants of slaves who fled to the mountains during the colonial period. And then there is Montego Bay, a lively mix of Caribbean life, where colorful markets and seafood restaurants along the waterfront alternate with luxury resorts, while in its clear waters, divers explore fabulous coral reefs. Turks and Caicos. An archipelago of 40 islands in the Atlantic, where the coral reef draws a boundary between ocean and land. The sea here drops in depth, creating the so-called wall, an underwater cliff that plunges 2,000 meters, attracting whale migrations between January and March. Grace Bay on the coast of Providenciales is considered among the most beautiful beaches in the world, with 12 kilometers of pristine white sand bathed by turquoise waters. In the shallow waters of Long Bay Beach, meanwhile, beginners can learn kite surfing thanks to steady winds, while experts perform spectacular acrobatics. Finally, at North Caicos and Middle Caicos, wild and deserted beaches offer an authentic Caribbean experience, where time seems to stand still, and the only sound is that of the waves. Puerto Rico. A non-incorporated archipelago of the United States that perfectly blends Caribbean culture and American influence. The capital, San Juan, is a vibrant metropolis where modern skyscrapers rise next to Old San Juan, which is the historic colonial district with its stone streets and pastel-colored houses. The El Yunque rainforest, meanwhile, dominates the eastern horizon. It's the only tropical forest in the United States forest system and has hiking trails that lead to hidden waterfalls and incredible viewpoints. Then there are also the beaches of Culebra, particularly Flamenco Beach, which attract tourists from around the world, with their immaculate white sand and clear emerald waters. The beaches of Vieques finally glow at night thanks to millions of microscopic organisms that create the bioluminescent bay phenomenon, while at Rincon, surfers find some of the best waves in the Caribbean. Roatán, a Honduran island that rises from the depths of the Caribbean Sea, surrounded by the second largest coral reef in the world, which makes it one of the most sought-after destinations for scuba diving. West Bay Beach, with its white sand and clear waters, is considered one of the most beautiful beaches in the Caribbean, where beginner divers can swim just a few meters from the shore, among colorful coral gardens. At West End Village, meanwhile, the lively center of the island, beachfront restaurants serve fresh local fish, while bars built on stilts offer spectacular ocean sunsets. Sandy Bay, finally, is home to the Roatán Institute for Marine Sciences, where visitors can swim with dolphins. While in Goombalimba Park, capuchin monkeys and scarlet macaws live freely in the tropical forest. This island is a true paradise on Earth, where nature and adventure blend together, offering unforgettable experiences. Dominican Republic. A country that represents the Caribbean par excellence, known for its paradise beaches, merengue, and warm Latin spirit. Punta Cana, the most famous destination, stretches for 50 kilometers along the eastern coast, where palm trees and luxury resorts overlook turquoise waters and fine white sand. To the north, the Samana Peninsula offers a unique natural spectacle. When between January and March, thousands of humpback whales gather in the bay to give birth to their calves. Los Haitises National Park, meanwhile, presents a unique landscape of limestone hills that emerge from the tropical forest, where mangroves and exotic birds create an extraordinary ecosystem. In Santo Domingo, finally, the colonial zone, the first European settlement in the Americas and UNESCO heritage site, tells 500 years of history among cathedrals, fortresses, and colonial palaces. The Dominican Republic is a true tropical paradise, but each of its corners is ready to offer a different experience. From the sea to the mountains, from nature to history. Bahamas. Although not geographically located in the Caribbean, these islands are a tropical paradise that attracts millions of visitors for its crystal clear waters and pink sand beaches. The Bahamas are an archipelago of 700 islands, of which only 30 are inhabited, where luxurious resorts alternate with small fishing villages that keep local traditions alive. Nassau, the capital on the island of New Providence, is famous for the lively Bay Street Street Market and the Atlantis Paradise Island Resort, with its water park and the largest casino in the Caribbean. The island of Eleuthera, meanwhile, is divided by the Glass Window Bridge, a thin isthmus where the calm turquoise waters of the Caribbean dramatically contrast with the deep blue waves of the Atlantic, creating one of the most photographed scenes in the Bahamas. The island of Exuma also deserves a mention, as it surprises visitors with its pigs swimming in the crystal clear waters. Barbados. An independent Caribbean island that stands out for its perfect mix of British elegance and Caribbean relaxation. The capital, Bridgetown, a UNESCO heritage site, enchants with its British colonial architecture, luxury boutiques, and the famous Oistins Fish Market, where every Friday the local fish fry attracts residents and tourists. On the west coast, nicknamed Platinum Coast, white sand beaches like Paynes Bay and Sandy Lane host some of the most exclusive resorts in the Caribbean. The wilder East Coast is dominated by Bathsheba, a surfer's paradise, where majestic coral formations emerge from the sea, creating a spectacular scenery. At Crane Beach, finally, considered one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, Atlantic waves break on a pink sand crescent, while the iconic Crane Resort overlooks the turquoise bay from atop the cliff. Aruba. In the heart of the Dutch Caribbean, An island defies the rules of nature. While the desert meets the ocean, Aruba transforms this collision into a unique spectacle. The hand of the wind has shaped the divi trees, which point westward, creating a landscape found nowhere else in the Caribbean. Tourists travel across the world for Palm Beach and Eagle Beach, where white sand meets crystal clear waters in long coastal stretches. But it's in Aricaque National Park that Aruba reveals its true identity, among hidden caves and 1,000-year-old rock paintings. In the center of Oranjestad, Dutch colonial buildings painted in Caribbean colors face the sea, telling the story of two cultures that have merged into one another. Here, tourists discover an island that lives outside the box, with snorkeling in underwater wrecks, kite surfing, and dinners on the beach, with pink flamingos strolling undisturbed at sunset. Martinique. In the southern Caribbean, a French island has a story that begins in the depths of the earth. Mount Pelée volcano dominates the landscape, not as a threat, but as a guardian of a heritage that has shaped every inch of this island. Tourists cross the ocean to get lost in the rainforests of La Caravelle Nature Reserve, where ancient mangroves create natural labyrinths on the water. The beaches, however, tell another story, with Les Salines, where light sand meets palms bending over the water, while Cap Macrae reveals a stretch of white sand with clear waters protected from the winds. Bonaire. Beneath the ocean's surface, a submerged world has transformed this island into a global diving capital. Unlike its Caribbean sisters, Bonaire doesn't compete for the most beautiful beaches, but for what tourists call shore diving. There are 63 dive sites accessible directly from the shore, marked by yellow stones along the coast. In the National Marine Park, sea turtles swim among corals that grow just feet from the surface, while seahorses hide among black coral formations. In the south of the island, salt pans paint the landscape pink, with thousands of flamingos transforming these artificial basins into one of the largest breeding colonies in the Western Hemisphere. Along the southern coast, tiny white and ochre huts, known as slave huts, bear witness to a painful past. Here the slaves who worked in the salt pans found shelter in spaces no larger than a modern wardrobe. Guadeloupe. In the heart of the French Caribbean, an island divided into two butterfly wings challenges imagination. A bridge crosses the narrow stretch of sea that separates Grande Terre from Basse Terre, connecting two worlds that seem to belong to different continents. Tourists come here to experience this duality. To the east, the plains of Grande Terre host beaches like Saint-Anne and La Caravelle, where the sea meets miles of white sand. But it's to the west that Basse Terre reveals its secret, with the Guadeloupe National Park, where the La Soufrière volcano rises among waterfalls hidden in the rainforest. In the market of Pointe-à-Pitre, the scent of Colombo mingles with that of Creole spices, while in villages like Deschais, time flows slowly among wooden houses and small restaurants. Curaçao. In the southern corner of the Caribbean, an island breaks the rules of Dutch colonialism. In Willemstad, back in 1817, a governor with a migraine ordered to paint all buildings in colors other than white because it reflected too much sunlight. Today, these houses create the most photographed waterfront in the Caribbean. Moreover, tourists cross the floating Queen Emma Bridge to discover Punda and Otrobanda, Willemstad's two historic districts, characterized by colorful colonial buildings and a vibrant atmosphere. Yet Curaçao hides 35 beaches in its coves. For instance, Playa Canepa is famous for its stunning views, while Playa Porto Mari is known for its calm waters and snorkeling opportunities between two beautiful coral reefs. In Christoffel National Park, tall cacti grow alongside wild orchids, while white-tailed deer cross the trails leading to the island's highest peak. Finally, at Yan Thiel and Mambo Beach, beach clubs transform shorelines into oceanfront lounges. Saint Martin. One island, two nations. The smallest border in the Caribbean divides Saint Martin between France and the Netherlands, creating a unique fusion of European cultures under the Caribbean sun. Tourists discover a place of contrast, with the French side maintaining a Riviera atmosphere, with peaceful beaches and high-end restaurants. Meanwhile, the Dutch side pulses with different energy. Streets come alive with open-air markets, where the scent of spices mingles with the sea breeze, and bays shelter natural harbors where boats sway to the rhythm of the waves. This island tells two stories in every corner, yet its beauty speaks one language. Cayman Islands. "700 banks call this coral reef home, although the real treasure of the Caymans hides underwater." Seven Mile Beach draws tourists to the surface, but it's in the depths that the island reveals its secret, with the north wall plunging 6,000 feet into the abyss. Stingray City transforms a sandbar into a unique experience, with hundreds of rays gliding between visitors' legs. At Rum Point, finally, the sun casts long shadows on the beach, while visitors gather at beachfront bars, where the world seems to pause in anticipation of the Caribbean sunset. St. Lucia. Among the Caribbean islands, one defies the laws of geography. Two volcanic peaks called the Pitons rise from the ocean, creating a landscape that UNESCO has declared a World Heritage Site, while rainforest covers mountains that plunge into the sea. The town of Soufriere nestles between the Pitons with colonial houses and spice markets, while in fishing villages like Anse-la-Raye, Friday nights transform streets into festivals of grilled fish and local music. Meanwhile, at Marigot Bay, boats hide in a cove so sheltered that pirates once used it as a refuge. In Castries Market, stalls sell cacao grown in inland plantations, and at Rodney Bay, fishermen transform their boats into floating restaurants at sunset. Antigua. An island that promises 365 beaches, one for every day of the year. Yet Antigua's true story lies in the wind, with sailors from around the world converging here during sailing week, transforming English harbor into a floating mix of sails. Half Moon Bay, meanwhile, attracts surfers from around the world with its perfect waves. While in the most remote bays of the island, secret lagoons hide where sea turtles nest undisturbed. At the Pillars of Hercules, finally limestone columns emerge from the water, sculpted by millennia of waves, creating a natural monument visible only from the sea. Dominica. This is the island that breaks every Caribbean stereotype. No white beaches or resorts, just untamed nature that challenges imagination. In Morne-Trois-Pitons National Park, 365 rivers flow through the rainforest. Here the Trafalgar Falls cascade like twins through the rainforest. Tourists also come for the Boiling Lake, the second largest boiling volcanic lake in the world, where steam creates a perpetual mist over its surface. Finally, on the Indian River, boatmen guide canoes through mangroves where Pirates of the Caribbean scenes were filmed, while at Emerald Pool, a waterfall creates a natural pool in the heart of the forest. Dominica is an island where nature has taken over, turning every corner into a new discovery. Grenada. The Spice Island dominates the Caribbean Sea. The scent of nutmeg and cinnamon fills the air, reminding everyone why this island produces 1/3 of the world's spices. Beyond spices, tourists can discover an island with beaches and nature. Grand Anse Beach, for instance, stretches for 2 miles. While in the forest, several waterfalls hide, creating natural pools. And finally, there's Grand Etang Lake, harboring legends of a sea monster in its volcanic crater. This is certainly an island where fragrances and legends blend between sea and forest, creating a place that is unique in the world. Cozumel. A Mexican island where coral reefs create an underwater world, defined as one of the world's best diving locations. Here, currents carry divers along coral walls that plunge into the abyss. In San Miguel, the capital, traditional Mexican shops line the streets. And the aroma of tortillas and grilled fish fills the air. In the forest, meanwhile, we find the San Gervasio ruins, rich with Maya artifacts dedicated to goddess Ixchel. Then there's El Cielo, meaning heaven in Spanish, a sandbar with incredibly blue transparent waters. Finally, on the East Coast, deserted beaches tell the story of an island that still preserves its wild spaces, where only the sound of waves breaks the silence. St. Vincent and the Grenadines. An archipelago where 32 islands create a world of contrasts. St. Vincent dominates with its smoking volcano above rainforests. But it's in the Grenadines where the sea becomes the star, with Bequia, Mustique, Canoan, Palm Island, and Union Island transforming into refuges for those seeking the essence of the Caribbean. Here, tourists sail between islands aboard traditional schooners. At Kingstown, in St. Vincent, local bananas mix with spices and tropical fruits. Between sea and land, each island offers a unique experience to discover. St. Kitts. An island that guards memories of the British Empire in the Caribbean. Sugar plantation ruins emerge from vegetation, while an ancient railway climbs through the hills. Brimstone Hill Fortress, a UNESCO heritage site, stands like a giant, with cannons still pointing seaward, protecting trade routes that no longer exist. Meanwhile, at Frigate Bay, the calm Caribbean Sea meets Atlantic waves, creating two beaches with opposite personalities on the same bay. Concluding this visual journey through the Caribbean, we move from the charm of its most remote islands to its most famous destinations, discovering together not only beaches and seas, but also curiosities that make every corner of this paradise unique. We hope that the images and stories shared have enriched your knowledge and sparked your desire to personally explore the varied beauty of this archipelago.